Danielle, it was so great talking with Allison Pataki about finding Margaret Fuller, but now it's time to vote on what we will read next.
That's right. We just announced our top 3 fic picks. So here are your choices. Missing White Woman by Kelly Garrett. It's about a woman on a weekend getaway with her boyfriend, but then she discovers a dead body in their luxury rental in Jersey City, and her boyfriend is nowhere to be found.
And Days of Wonder by Caroline Levitt tells the story of a woman released from prison for trying to kill her wealthy boyfriend's father. Now she's on a quest to find the child she had to give up and the truth about that fateful night.
And finally, Honey by Victor Lodato. Honey escaped her early years growing up in a New Jersey crime family. She reinvented herself as a woman in the world of art. Now in her twilight years, she's back to reckon with her past.
I am so excited to find out what we will read next. You can vote now at clubcalvi.com, and thank you for joining us.
And don't forget to join our Facebook group.
And thank you for reading along with us over the last year. It's been so lovely for us.
Unbelievable.
And we're looking forward to discovering more books with you as we head into year 2. We leave you now with a message from our readers. See you next time.
Happy anniversary, Club Calvi.
That was practice. One more time. I think it'll be funny no matter what. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
Happy anniversary, Club Calvi.
Brought to you by Cohen's Fashion Optical, leading the eye care industry since 1927.
This is CBS News New York.
It's the spring that can't make up its mind. It was 74, and we had some rock'em sock'em rain yesterday. It is cold today. 59, didn't even feel like it with the breeze. It's a little better Friday, and it's going to be a Friday. Then Saturday's chilly and gray again. Oh, wait, there's more. Monday, city probably won't hit 85, but these are extremes for the area. North and west, it was in the 20s this morning, and Monday afternoon, south and west, it's going to be in the mid-80s. So, yeah, a summer preview, but all the while, another cold weather alert. 2 to 9, we have a freeze watch, and it's pushed farther to the south, that's the pattern with these. They always kind of migrate to the south. So sensitive vegetation going to feel the chill. Oh, speaking of vegetation, have you noticed? Boy, tree and grass both extreme, and weed and mold pollen very high. So it's more of the same. And more of the same kind of variety. So you have cooler sunshine, pretty skies, a lot of altocumulus flying by, a bit of a breeze. It's cold tonight, then it's nice tomorrow. Nice way to wrap up the week. Maybe it was a vacation week, and if it was, I hope you had a great vacation, and Friday's a nice way to wrap it up. For the weekend, Saturday's dry, but Saturday's cloudy. Saturday's cool, 60 aspirational. I think some folks are stuck in the 50s on Saturday. I know. Sunday, we're back in the 70s, and we're dealing with the possibility of showers. So Even though it's cooler today, at least it's quiet. It's cold tonight, quiet Friday. Friday's nice way to wrap up the week. Saturday's gray and cool. Saturday night, showers. So Sunday, we have showers, passing showers. It's not a washout. It's just a little bit busier. And then that tees it up for a big warm-up Monday.
I'm Chris Raggi, now on CBS 2 and streaming on CBS News New York. Let's begin with the decision to overturn Harvey Weinstein's rape conviction. New York's highest court says the judge was prejudiced against the disgraced movie mogul with improper rulings. And as CBS News' Dave Carlin reports, the 72-year-old will remain behind bars.
Disgraced and in a California prison, Weinstein was just handed a legal win in the New York side of the case. The 72-year-old Hollywood producer was convicted of rape in New York in 2020.
This is breaking news.
Doug Williams here in the CBS 2 newsroom. We interrupt your current programming for breaking news. New York's highest court has overturned Harvey Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction. Now his legal team is reacting to the decision in Lower Manhattan. Let's take a listen.
And at the time of those rulings, from the days I interned with John Esposito in 1980 and when my father worked here in the 60s and 70s, what we knew then was the first words that came out of my mouth to the Court of Appeals, which was from the bottom of our hearts, from our collective hundreds of years of experience, we knew that Harvey Weinstein did not get a fair trial. And there's a quote from Judith Kaye, who was one of the great leaders of this state. She was the chief of the Court of Appeals of the state of New York. And the essence of it was, there are some people who are very unpopular in our society, but we still have to apply the law fairly to them. And in this courthouse behind us at that trial, the law was not applied fairly to Harvey Weinstein. And what the Court of Appeals, the highest court in the greatest state, in the greatest country, said today is that yes, no one is above the law, but no one is below the law either. And the case in which it relies upon is called the Molyneux case. It's over 100 years old. And what the Court of Appeals said, you can't throw out 100 years of legal precedent because someone is unpopular. We compliment the Court of Appeals for having the strength and the courage to do so. We compliment the former Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals, Chief Judge Janet DiFiore, because she's the one who gave us access to the Court of Appeals. It is not often, it is not automatic that a criminal defendant gets access to the Court of Appeals. And Chief Judge DiFiore, who's been a fighter for women's rights throughout the course of her career, stepped up and said, no, there's a problem here that my colleagues on the bench have to examine. And they did examine it. And Judge Jenny Rivera, who has spent her entire career in the law as a professor, as a judge, fighting for women's rights as hard as she possibly can, wrote this decision. And it may sound like it's an exaggeration, but it's not. Today's legal ruling is a great day for America because it instills in us the faith that there is a justice system, even though there's 100 cameras around, that a judge will sit in her chambers and look at the law and look at the precedent without fear of favor and say, I don't care who the defendant is. If it's a former president of the United States or the most storied Hollywood producer of our generation, the law applies to everyone. There was over 100-year precedent that was thrown out by the intermediary court of appellate court that said the Molyneux ruling, which is allowing people who a defendant is not charged with to come into court and testify. They said it was okay in the Harvey Weinstein case. But today, Judge Jenny Rivera, a real hero for women on this planet said you can't convict someone based on their entire life and everything that they've done in their life. You can't allow more witnesses to come in and testify against the defendant than the defendant is actually charged with. You can't do that. What Judge Rivera wrote, over a century later, we reaffirm that no person accused of illegality may be judged on proof of uncharged crimes that serve only to establish the accused's propensity for criminal behavior. So the Court of Appeals deserves a tremendous amount of credit for doing this based on the law, not based on opinion polls, not based on popularity contests. And let me tell you something about Harvey Weinstein. From the moment I met him at his office in Midtown, he profoundly declared his innocence. He said, if you're going to represent me, you need to know I didn't rape anyone, I didn't sexually assault any of these women who I am charged with. He said the same thing to me today. He's also said the same thing to me when the verdict was read and I sat next to him, and he said, Arthur, how could this happen? I'm innocent, I'm innocent. Because of this ruling, Harvey Weinstein will now be produced from where he is in upstate New York back down here to this courthouse. Obviously, there will be a new judge. There will be a new prosecutor because the former prosecutor has retired. And to her credit, Jonah Luzzi, in a very classy move for a lawyer, called and acknowledged the decision today and was very classy about that. She deserves recognition for that because that's how the justice system should work. So Harvey will be here. We will be announcing ready for trial on the first day we walk into that courtroom, because we are. And Harvey will, under this new ruling, be able to take the stand, will be able to tell his side of the story, and be very consistent with what he said all along, which is, yes, there was the sexual encounter between me and Mimi Haley, but I never forced her to do anything. In fact, 7 days after the alleged assault, we had consensual sex, which she testified to in this courthouse. So this today is not just about Harvey Weinstein, far from it. We've gotten calls from so many defense attorneys, from the greatest in terms of defense attorneys of Ron Kuby to retired judges, saying you did a great thing for America. We did it. Diana wrote the brief with Judge Kamens. We tried the case together. I argued it. It was a group effort. Craig Rothfeld, who's been here, he's the prison consultant taking care of Harvey throughout. It's been an absolute team effort. But this was so much more than Harvey Weinstein for us and for the justice system. And we are relieved. Everyone's like, are you happy? Of course, we worked very, very hard, but we're relieved that our system of justice wasn't perverted. You know, this was a case about perversion. Well, in that courthouse at trial, the laws were perverted because there was so much pressure, because Harvey was the face of this movement, that he had to be convicted under any circumstances, even if you have to throw the rule book out the window. And luckily, the judges of the Court of Appeals of the state of New York, our highest court, said no. That perversion in the state of New York, in our criminal courts, in our justice system, will not stand. I'll take some questions.
Jack Walker from the New York Post. 2 questions. First of all, how did Harvey react to the news? Did you tell him, and if so, what was his response to you? And secondly, what will be the logistics in terms of him moving prisons, given that he still has the California conviction over his head?
I never anticipated those questions, so I really don't know the answers.
Did you talk to him? Did you break the news?
So here's, we're not in a rush. We don't come back from lunch for 15 minutes. Judge Kamens today is lecturing at the Brooklyn Bar Association. They're also having a suit drive for people who need some clothing. So I was actually in my closet picking out a couple of suits to give to charity when my wife called me. and I mistakenly didn't take her call. And then Judge Kamens called me, and we did not expect the decision to come out today. So we were in shock that the decision, first of all, came out, and then relieved by what the decision was. But we didn't hear, you know, it's not like I could pick up the phone and call Harvey in prison until about, I think it was a little bit after 10 o'clock a.m. when I got the call, and it was Harvey. And, you know, he just heaped praise on me and our whole team. And you know, he said thank you more times than I could count. And I'll talk to you about how he found out in a moment. But I do want to say this about Harvey. He, after the oral arguments in the Court of Appeals, he called me. It was like a week later maybe, because he wasn't able to see it right away. But eventually he saw the oral argument. And he called me and he said something that any lawyer would want to hear. He said, Arthur, no matter what the outcome is, I know that you and your team did everything you possibly could to try to save me. And no matter what the outcome is, I will never blame you. And as a lawyer who has someone's life in their hands, you can't ask for more than that. So I appreciate him saying those things. Apparently what happened was he was in the facility today. Someone just walked over to him and handed him a piece of paper. I believe it was from the Associated Press. And he said it was like 2 sentences. It just said, Harvey Weinstein appeal reversed, conviction reversed. And obviously he has some friends in there now. You know, he's like, Arthur, I've been here 4 years in prison for something I didn't do. You got to fix this. I said, Harvey, we're going to walk in there. John Esposito has been my supervisor since 1990. He said, we're going to go in there, and the first they say, Your Honor, we're ready for trial. Just, you know, let's pick a trial date. We're ready to go.
Was he emotional? How was he?
He wasn't emotional like crying. Craig was crying. Craig was crying. Diana was very, very focused on making her cappuccino. I was a little more. I was in a little bit. I just was not expecting. We got some misinformation that there were no more decisions from the Court of Appeals coming down. So we were not prepared. But Harvey was very gracious, very grateful. He called me actually 3 times. You know, look, he's in a horrible place, in a horrible situation, but the human spirit is strong, and so he has done the best he can with his help and the help of Craig Rothfeld to make the best out of a horrible situation. But it is chilling when a human being who is in his early 70s now says, Arthur, I've been in jail for 4 years for something I didn't do, and what was done improperly. And that's a really, think about where we all were 4 years ago. We were in lockdown and COVID. Think about how much life has passed, and he's missed all of that, and he's got little kids.
Arthur, Chloe Malofs with NBC News. Just curious, explain to us, does he now get extradited to California and begin serving that 16-year sentence there? Talk to us about what happens next. What happens
next is that actual judgment from the court will be sent up to the courthouse. It'll be, to the prison and to the courthouse. His case now will be redocketed like it just started from the beginning, and he will be transported down here to a facility down here yet to be determined, and we will go. It's like his case begins brand new, like those days, I guess 5 years ago, almost 6, when he was initially arrested and brought in, and you know, we start from scratch.
So it's 100% that this will go to trial again?
Well, that is in the district attorney's discretion. If they want to dismiss the case, I'm not going to object to that. But you know, the case starts from the beginning. Hi.
Does Harvey Weinstein have any remorse or any regret?
Well, he spoke at his sentencing quite eloquently about the remorse and regret that he has, that he put these women through that situation, and he looked at them right in the eyes in that courtroom. But Harvey Weinstein has been very, very consistent. Mimi LA and I fooled around on, I forget what day of the week it was. She called me in the morning. This is her testimony. She called me in the morning, said, my friend's having a baby in California. Can you fly me out? He flew her out. She came back less than 10 days later. They went to dinner and they made love. And then years later, she said, well, the time we made love, that was consensual, but the 10 days before that, that wasn't consensual. And Harvey Weinstein says, no, it was consensual. And he wants to come back into the courtroom and have this team and whatever lawyers Mr. Weinstein wants to bring on, cross-examine her, fight her case. He wants to take the stand and say, look, yes, it happened. We never said it didn't happen, but I didn't sexually assault anybody. Hi.
And we welcome you back inside our newsroom. You've been listening to the attorney for Harvey Weinstein speaking about the New York Appeals Court's decision to overturn Weinstein's 2020 rape conviction. Weinstein's attorney calls this a great day for America due to what it says about the justice system. Advocates and some of Weinstein's accusers also speaking out today, including actress Ashley Judd and Tarana Burke, the founder of the Me Too movement. CBS 2's Dave Carlin was there to hear their reaction and joins us now from outside Manhattan Criminal Court. Dave.
Doug, this was the case that strengthened the Me Too movement and also caused a ripple effect that affected the entire entertainment industry. And in this hotel behind me, we had activists and we had survivors of sexual violence meeting and talking about this overturned conviction. We have some video of the people inside, some of them you will definitely recognize. They said no matter what, they will continue to live in their truth and tell their stories as a way of motivating other women and also letting them know that they are not alone. So let's begin by showing you the actress Ashley Judd and what she had to say, followed by Tarana Burke, founder of the Me Too movement.
4 judges at New York's court have voted to overturn Harvey Weinstein's sexual crimes conviction. This is what it's like to be a woman in America, living with male entitlement to our bodies. Now, for those of you who don't know, when I was an up-and-coming actor in Hollywood in the 1990s, I'd been up all night filming on the movie Kiss the Girls, and I had a breakfast appointment with Harvey Weinstein up to his room, where Harvey, wearing his hotel robe, immediately began asking if he could give me a massage, and this progressed into him insisting that I watch him take a shower, and other acts of sexual harassment and aggression. When survivors tell their stories, they are exercising a powerful form of leadership that sparks others to join in shared action that catalyzes change. This today is an act of institutional betrayal, and our institutions betray survivors of male sexual violence.
Get in the trenches and we do our work. And we will continue to do that. This is not a blow to the movement. It is a clarion call. And we are prepared to answer that call.
Burke and Judd saying this does not slow down the movement. Now, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office will retry. Weinstein had indicated that it felt that it would have to make sure that the folks who testified before are willing to come back. But if this news conference we listened to is any indication, they will return and they will testify again. Weinstein right now still in that California prison at the age of 72. Doug?
Dave, I was struck by the same thing. You were the difference in rhetoric between the survivors and accusers, the creator of the Me Too movement that you've been hearing from today, and the attorney for Harvey Weinstein, as I mentioned earlier, saying this is a great day for America based purely on, in his opinion, what it says about the justice system. Were you struck by the similar sort of disagreement in tone there from what you've heard and what you just heard minutes ago in that press conference?
Absolutely. They are not on the same page at all over this. Ashley Judd saying that this is an affront to survivors and victims who often have a hard time coming forward in the first place, worried they will not be believed. They say the movement continues, but they are very disappointed in this overturning.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight this afternoon. Let's bring in another guest to help us break this down. Joining us now is David Katz, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and former federal prosecutor. David, welcome. Thanks for your time. We want to note that this does not mean that for Weinstein and that he's getting out of prison necessarily. What is your reaction, though, to them overturning this verdict?
Well, I was a prosecutor here in New York City and an assistant U.S. attorney in Los Angeles. But my reaction to them overturning the verdict is that the system worked. This doesn't mean it's the end of the case. I do believe it's the end of the appeals, but it means that the case goes back to the trial court. There'll be a trial. Harvey Weinstein's attorney says he wants to have a speedy trial. Obviously, the prosecution will be ready too. And the people who are under the ruling allowed to take the stand consistent with a fair trial. There's no reason to think they won't take the stand again. They'll give their recollections. One of the interesting parts of the ruling is that Harvey Weinstein will not have as many prior bad acts used against him to show a lack of credibility. So he says with a less number of prior bad acts that he can be cross-examined or impeached about, he will take the stand and give his side of the story. He doesn't have to, and time will tell if he really does take the stand or not at the new trial.
David, please accept our apologies. Thanks for correcting the record based on your work and years in law. And I did want to ask you, the New York Appeals Court found that the judge allowed women to testify about allegations that were not part of the Weinstein case. So how would something like that happen? Do attorneys catch something like that at the time, but the judge allows it?
Well, a lot of us who commentated on the case at the time, like myself, said that this could be a problem on appeal, and we were sort of poo-pooed and dismissed as, you know, not being sufficiently on the side of the women victims. It was nothing like that at all. It was because this was a potential problem. I think the smarter prosecutive move would have been to have included in the charges all of the alleged victims that the prosecution wanted to have testified. But they took the chance, the prosecution did, and the advocacy groups that demanded this, they took the chance that this would be the decision on appeal. And, you know, this wasn't, they say the male patriarchy. I think it was a female judge who wrote this opinion. And so I think this is a victory for the rule of law. It's not a defeat for anybody. There'll be a new trial, and let the chips fall where they may at the new trial.
And David, in a statement, a spokesperson for the Manhattan DA's office said they will, quote, do everything in our power to retry this case and remain steadfast in our commitment to survivors of sexual assault. And you mentioned earlier that witnesses, folks to take the stand in a retrial of this case, there's no reason why that shouldn't happen. But in your experience, is there a chance that though the survivors, the victims here want to do this again and get it right and put Harvey Weinstein in a New York prison, is there a chance that those women will not want to go through this again and take this stand again? Does that happen in cases like this?
That does happen in cases, but I believe that from their prior testimony, from their prior statements, those who are charged as victims or who can properly be called to the stand will take the stand. There'll be a smaller quantum of evidence against Harvey Weinstein because the evidence that shouldn't have come in won't be allowed to come in. That's the Court of Appeals ruling. But I think everyone who properly can take the stand will. There's no reason to think that they won't. And they should tell their stories and lay out all the facts. And if Harvey Weinstein wants to tell his side of the story, he will be impeached as to his credibility. He says he'll take the stand. Remember, President Trump said he wanted to testify with Mueller. That never happened. Saying you want to take the stand and actually taking the stand and subjecting yourself to cross-examination, those are two different kettles of fish.
And just reminding our viewers again, this does not mean that Harvey Weinstein is out of prison. He is convicted in California. Does one case impact the other at all here, David?
I think that they would be very wise not to bring up what was in the California allegations or convictions unless they're properly charged in the New York case. That's been the whole problem with piling on. And I know a lot of people think if anyone should be piled on against, it's Harvey Weinstein. I get it. But we do have rules in our justice system, and I think that we're seeing the rules play out. I think the prosecution should just put on a straight, fair case against Harvey Weinstein, let the chips fall where they may. And he's not out of prison. He's not eligible to get out of prison because he's still serving time on the California conviction.
David Katz, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this afternoon and helping explain this to those of us who aren't law experts and have a lot of questions that you've helped answer. So thank you, David. We appreciate it.
My pleasure being with you.
Yes, thank you. You've been watching a special report again. The New York Court of Appeals has ruled that Harvey Weinstein will indeed get a new trial in the state of New York, stating the judge in the original case made improper rulings that prevented him from getting a fair trial. He's been serving a 23-year sentence in New York, but will remain in prison, as David just said, because he was also convicted in 2022 of rape in Los Angeles and sentenced to 16 years in that case. Do stay with CBS 2 News and CBS 2 and CBS New York, I should say, for the latest developments in this case. Dick Brennan, Christine Johnson will have much more on this on the news at 5 o'clock.
This has been breaking news.
It's the spring that can't make up its mind. It was 74, and we had some rock'em sock'em rain yesterday. It is cold today. 59, doesn't even feel like it with the breeze. It's a little better Friday, and it's going to be a Friday. Then Saturday's chilly and gray again. Oh, wait, there's more. Monday, city probably won't hit 85, but these are extremes for the area. North and west, it was in the 20s this morning, and Monday afternoon, south and west, it's going to be in the mid-80s. So, yeah, a summer preview, but all the while, another cold weather alert. 2 to 9, we have a freeze watch, and it's pushed farther to the south, that's the pattern with these. They always kind of migrate to the south. So sensitive vegetation going to feel the chill. Oh, speaking of vegetation, have you noticed? Boy, tree and grass both extreme, and weed and mold pollen very high. So it's more of the same. And more of the same kind of variety. So you have cooler sunshine, pretty skies, a lot of altocumulus flying by, a bit of a breeze. It's cold tonight, then it's nice tomorrow. Nice way to wrap up the week. Maybe it was a vacation week, and if it was, I hope you had a great vacation, and Friday's a nice way to wrap it up. For the weekend, Saturday's dry, but Saturday's cloudy. Saturday's cool, 60 aspirational. I think some folks are stuck in the 50s on Saturday. I know. Sunday, we're back in the 70s, and we're dealing with the possibility of showers. So even though it's cooler today, at least it's quiet. It's cold tonight, quiet Friday. Friday's nice way to wrap up the week. Saturday's gray and cool. Saturday night, showers. So Sunday, we have showers, passing showers. It's not a washout. It's just a little bit busier. And then that tees it up for a big warm-up Monday.
Well, former President Donald Trump is back in a lower Manhattan courtroom today for his criminal trial. But before he went to court, he took a detour in the city.